Welcome to another C++ video here in UG Academy. Today we are going to talk about function parameter parsing. But before that, I have to first introduce the concept of reference. Here is a simple program to illustrate. We first define an integer variable x and assign the value 5 to it. And then we define a reference y to the integer variable x. To define a reference of a given type, we simply type in the name of that type, and then we add this symbol after the data type name. So here, y is a reference to x. It means that they share the exact same memory location within the computer, but they just have two different names. So they are two names of the exactly same objects. Here, we first print out the current value of x and y, and then we perform some operations on the variable x, and increment is varied by 1. It seems that y is not affected in this case. However, since x and y are actually two different names for the same object, the value of y will be changed as well, as we can see here. Now let's have a look. For the sake of time, I've already precompiled. So x equals to 5, I will type 5 here. And then after the value of x gets changed, the value of y gets changed as well. So this is reference in C++. For references, we cannot assign an integer when initializing it, since it must indicate a certain memory location within the memory. So we cannot simply assign an integer when we initialize a reference. Also, the reference variable of the reference type will not change throughout its lifetime. For example, we define integer 1 here, and then we assign y to n. This doesn't mean that now the name y is bind to the variable n. It simply means that we assign the value of n, which is 1, to y. And in this case, x will be changed as well. So y is still bind to x, but not n. Now that we know about reference in C++ and we can start talk about parameter parsing. The first type of parameter parsing is called pass by value. The concept is quite simple. Within the caller memory, we have the variable x and y. The caller means the program that calls our function, okay? And then we pass this value of x and y to the callee's memory, a, b here. So we actually copy the value of x and y here, and there are two different objects within the computer's memory. This is called pass by value and is the most usual type of parameter parsing. And then we have pass by reference. Here, in this case, instead of copying the caller's memory to the callee's memory, we actually preserve the content within the caller's memory, but create a temporal variable to represent the value within the caller's memory. And this are actually the same thing. A, B here and x, y here are actually the exactly same thing without a copy. So when a and b got changed within the function, the value of x and y will be changed as well. Now let's have a look at an example. In this example, we are going to use our function to calculate the square of a float number. Here is a very traditional function. We accept a float number here, a. This is called a default value. We assign a default value 3.0 to the float parameter a. So if a variable is not passed to this function, we will see here, then it will take the default value. If a value is passed, then it will take the passed values here. It modifies the value of a to obtain its square, and then return a. So it has a return type float. And then we also have this function called in-place square. Generally, an in-place function is a function that directly modifies the variable that gets passed in. So in order to allow it to modify the passed in variable, it has to use a pass by reference method. Here, the a is passed by value, okay, because this is a simple data type indicator. And then here we have this symbol here, which indicates that this is in fact a float reference. and we call this pass by reference. So instead of calculating the new value for A and then return it back, we simply modify the value of A within this function, and the variable outside the function will get affected as well. And there is no return type, so we put a void here. And here is our main function. We create a float variable called x, and then we create another variable y to hold the result of square x. And here we can see the result. We will also like to try the in-place square x. In this case, this function is not returning anything. However, since we are passing by reference, this x variable will be modified within the function, and we can again see the result. At last, I would like to demonstrate the default parameter here, which is in this case a default parameter with value 3. Since we are going to use the default value, we are not going to pass any value to this function here. Let's have a look at the result. For the sake of time, I've already pre-compiled it. So as you can see, x equals to 2 here. Of course, because this is passed by value, and then we obtain a copy within the function, and the value of x outside will not get affected. So y is 4, which is correctly the square of x. And then here, since we use the in-place x and we pass the variable x by reference, so the value of variable x will get directly modified, and it now becomes 4 as well. At last here, we demonstrate the function of default value. Since we do not pass any variable to the function square, it takes the default value 3 and then returns 9. We do not hold it with any variable. Instead, we allow it to print out to the screen directly. Okay, that's all for today. The content of today is a bit more. Hope you can understand.